Did it go? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
my thing lagged. Okay, so our intros are always welcome to looking through the glass. It's me, Giselle, the lovely.
100% human. We're being
Yes,
100% human right from the get-go.
very much
We, we're,
so.
we're winning on we're winning on authenticity right out
Yeah.
the
Oh,
gate.
yeah.
Okay?
We are winning on authenticity for sure.
Because mine totally lagged, and I didn't even see the countdown. So, okay, welcome to Looking Through the Glass. I am Giselle. We have Sela as well, and today we have Jacob Modak. I hope I said that right.
Yes, that is correct.
And so Jacob and I had a little bit of conversation beforehand. I told him, a little bit about our history, and the reason why we came up with Looking Through the Glass. The mother-daughter duo, how this all came about, and didn't give him the full rundown because that takes hours.
Right.
And but Jacob came on here to speak about pretty much well, I don't know. We can go anywhere with you, what you know and your knowledge, Jacob. I honestly. So I'll you take the floor a little bit and let you kind of dive in and explain to our listeners who you are.
Just a little introduction. So, first and foremost, I'm just a person like everybody else. Like I'm on the journey, doing my best to learn and grow and improve each day. So just like everybody else, that's the foundation. I just happen to have spent a lot of my time really focused and interested in holistic health and then studying it and practicing it throughout my teenage years. And I'm 33 now, so this whole journey kind of started for me when I was 14. And then later on, around about 2020, global events kind of nudged a little speed up in the timeline of things. I decided to. I don't need to mention that. Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, I decided to do this work professionally. I just felt like it was the right time. And so, even though I had been studying holistic health right up until that point, I decided to join the academy of the Holistic Institute that I had been studying and start doing this professionally. And even though like my training was comprehensive, in the last few years I decided to primarily focus my holistic work on helping people heal unresolved trauma primarily. And one of the contributing factors to that choice is that's also what I came from. So it was my experience as a younger person dealing with all of that and the chaos of the family environment that I was in, which I'll explain and elaborate on in a little bit. That just brought me to this work. So just like the in Greek mythology, the myth of Chiron, which is the wounded healer. I'm just first and foremost, I'm someone who's been through it, and the fact that I've gone through that process from start to from A to Z, A to Z. Well, I'm a Brit, so let's go with Z for now.
We
Um,
understand.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say like we can uphold the Queen's English, but she's not here anymore, so the King's English. Um, um, uh, Going through that process from in its entirety, combined with the professional training and the sort of techniques of it, just means that I understand it, and so I can really help people. And it was not only was it I could do that, I just deeper than that, I felt like I really wanted to. Because it's not to say everyone should. Like everyone can go through their healing journey and then decide what they want to do in their new life. That's how it should be. Just for me, I felt just deep in my soul it was really important for me to support people professionally and just outside of it, the just holistic health in general and the whole human system and how things can go a bit sideways and how we can get them back on track and all the rest of it. Just as a subject, just it I just can't help but be constantly fascinated by it. And the amount of joy that I get from helping people move through what they went through and then really experience feeling free of what was unresolved and the liberation that they feel on the other side of it, not just in their mind and their emotions, but feeling it embodied tangibly in like their whole nervous system and in like every cell of their being. It's just such a wonderful feeling. So I'll never get bored of that, and I just can't help but never get bored of the subject in general.
Well, how
So
could you get bored? Because, like, in all honesty, we're being lied to. Look, my own personal experiences. I'm gonna put up there at first up there for everybody. My own personal experiences. I've been gaslit so much. Even just yesterday, I went to the doctor and got gaslit, and was like, and happened to be my own advocate for my head injury and the seizures and the different causes that could be the different causes of the seizures. Long,
yeah,
and literally, I'm still sitting in the frustrations of being so gaslit yesterday. It's
yeah,
unreal, you know.
yeah,
But the human body has an amazing ability to fix itself if you give it
yeah.
the proper nutrition or the proper means.
Yeah, and the other thing with that is also uh, understanding how, because a human being is a system of systems. Like
Mhm.
we're not just one
One.
segmented thing. We are, and the a good analogy is kind of like a spider's web. If you twang one end of it, the whole thing will move. So, but the key thing is understanding how the system is kind of set up and the hierarchy of influence of systems, which is one of the just genius contributions of Paul Chek, the founder of the Chek Institute, which is the holistic institute of which I'm a part and of which I train with, and his totem pole system, which shows the hierarchy of systems. When you understand that, when someone's presenting with certain issues, they may have this, they may have that, some mental emotional stuff, physiological stuff, all of it's relevant. But when you can understand the like all the way the system's set up and the hierarchy of the systems, what you can establish, and this is more the sort of technical thing that the coaches need to do, is look at that in context with someone's sort of trauma history or challenge history or injury history, whatever it is. And then you can establish the kind of like holistic domino line. So what you understand is kind of what's the root domino and what's an exacerbator. It doesn't mean one's less important than the other, but when you understand that, you understand what you need to start with and what you need to, so kind of like the order of which you need to address things. And when you also know that, you also know what issue needs what tool, because you know what's a screw, what's a nail, and when you know what's a screw and what's a nail, you know whether you need a screwdriver or a hammer.
Yeah.
So when people don't know that, that's when you get people guessing and throwing pills at you, which also is part of just the American medical system because it's so captured by a lot of the drug corporations. Which again, in the whole holistic picture, medical drugs do have their place, but at the same
Mhm.
time, then it's ideally it's not for a long time, but if they were used optimally, probably 80% of the sort of profit volume of the pharmaceutical companies would just go
Hey,
because they wouldn't be needed. They would only be needed for acute incidents like someone's in a car wreck and they need morphine or this drug to stabilize them in the ambulance so they can actually make it to the hospital, and then they need the drugs during the operation or the general anesthetic or something like that. And don't get me wrong, I am not against it. Like when I broke my leg when I was 16, like my fibula, so that's one of the small
oh yeah.
bones in the lower
Mhm.
leg.
Yeah.
It's so there's the big shin bone and then there's a smaller one down the side that snapped in half. After the surgery, I was really enjoying the fact that they gave me morphine. I felt nothing. But at the same time, you don't want to be taking that for a long time. And I'm very happy that they gave me general anesthetic when they sort of unzipped the side of my leg and then bolted it together with a plate and 7 screws. Like, I'm very happy that I wasn't awake for that. Yeah, drugs have
I,
their context, but
oh
again, if we don't adhere to that whole holistic picture, then we get the misuse and abuse of said drugs and the misuse and abuse of the people for the sake of profit, which is what we have all over the place with the medical system,
Yeah.
which can be a whole conversation in itself, but I'm just going to sort of zero in more on just the actual process itself. Otherwise, we'll just be sort of
Oh, we can go off
moaning
on
about them all the
tangents
time.
for, I can go off on tangents for the past 10, 11 years. It has been literally gaslight, 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 gaslight. And to me figuring out and me going to other people that have had head injuries that had the same thing,
Hmm.
that had to go through the same thing that I did. And we just had to figure out our own because they
Yeah.
literally, like one person put it is you go to the hospital for a fracture or a broken bone, they're able to do surgery or put a
Mm.
compress or but when it comes to the brain, they can't put a band-aid on it. They can't do anything.
Yeah.
What they want to do is they want to throw this is mine and a couple other people's story is that with me, they wanted to throw a whole bunch of medications at me. So I was on
Mm.
15 to 17 different medications at one time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like you're trying to throw something. One, I don't have a healthy brain. I have an injured brain. Why are you
Hmm.
throwing medications at a injured brain that's already trying to figure out what to do with itself? You
Hmm.
know. And I forgot where I was going, but yeah, no tangents.
Yeah, yeah, no, but it's the natural flow, but and those are all very, very important topics as well. And again, there's lots of other things that can be spoken about how there there's a lot more positive research happening now in terms of how people with brain injuries can be optimally helped in ways that don't involve destructive pharmaceutical drugs, and and also because recently people can think what they want about Trump, but one of the things he did do recently was sign a presidential decree that allows for the accelerated research into the benefits of plant medicines on brain injuries and trauma. And there's already been some university studies that have happened already. Stanford did one with ibogaine. But the point is there's just more accelerated research happening in terms of what modalities can help that aren't pharmaceutical drug based. So even though it's not going to change instantly in terms of like a systemic evolution, there's already these sort of root dominoes starting to knock into other things, which we're going to see the impact of as the years go on, which is a very positive thing. So, in a general sense, I am very optimistic. Even if it didn't look like that, I would just choose optimism anyway, because what's the alternative? Pessimism, and that just sucks. So,
Right. Sitting there all day.
well,
yeah.
and I know, so I'm gonna try to rein it back to our conversation before we started
Hmm.
recording. I was telling you about how the trauma that we've been through, that I've been facing since I was like 5 years old, and the
Or
trauma that we've been facing since then, for honestly up until just a few years ago and up to this day, we're
Hmm.
facing a lot of trauma, and we've done a lot of healing, but we've learned the tools that you were saying, like using the different tools. You have to find the tools
Hmm.
to, fix it.
Yeah.
And it's true. That's why we do this. We see that we have so many different people that come in with different tools, different
Hmm.
and helping us through that journey because we're taking those tools and going, that worked for me. I'm going to use this because talk
Hmm.
therapy we have learned only goes so far. Talk therapy
Hmm.
doesn't get you to always go through all the trauma because then you're building up, bringing up more trauma, and then you're going, how do I deal with that?
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some tools that you've, have uncovered for this holistic theory, healing?
Mm-hmm. I'll explain that in context to unresolved trauma specifically, and I'll just speak about what I essentially put myself through and figured out, because what I share and the program that I've made and the structure that I take people through is simply what I've lived through. And so all the tools and modalities have their place. We just got to know what they're for and contextually at what time. Like there's a certain time to use a screwdriver, and there's a certain thing that needs a screwdriver, and there's a certain time to not use one, and there's a certain time or a certain thing that doesn't need one. And that's the key thing, understanding the nature of what it is that's being dealt with in the present moment, so we can understand genuinely what's the right tool and methodology for that specific moment in time. So it's not to pedestal one or the other, it's to contextually understand what is needed for this person in this moment. That's also partly down to the education of the practitioner themselves to be able to kind of understand that and help guide the individual, in combination with encouraging the individual's own intuition, tapping into their own innate wisdom of what do I feel like I need. And they'll know, but they may not be able to technically state it. Maybe they'll have a feeling that I need this type of thing, and like there's a type of, they feel like I need a type of sensation, like I don't feel like I need to go into my head, I feel like I need to relax. And in that context they may be unconsciously knowing that they need to calm their physiology a bit more. So that excludes certain tools and methodologies and focuses on other ones. And then it's, again, that's like the practitioner to be able to help and kind of connect and the gap in between. So, but just to kind of give a general overview, there are essentially like three phases I've found with the trauma healing process that need to be gone through. Now, these three phases, again, how long it takes to genuinely go through each of them is unique to each individual, depending on the nature of what someone has gone through, depending on the uniqueness of their life and their general sort of circumstance of how much time they have and how much intensity their system can handle at any one time. And it's not to say that any is better or worse than the other. It's just what is the right pace for that individual. But
Yeah.
I've found that the three phases need to be gone through. So the names of the phases are titles essentially that I've drawn from Integral Theory, which was founded by Ken Wilber. So that there are essentially five things that he defines that are needed for an individual to have genuine wholeness. And he talks about these things in depth in his recent book called Finding Radical Wholeness, which I highly recommend to everybody. Ken's very, very technical and detailed, but this is a very dense book, but the language is very simple and accessible. And it's
What was the
brilliant.
name of the book again?
Finding Radical Wholeness by
And
Ken Wilber.
okay.
So the five aspects essentially are waking up, growing up, cleaning up, opening up, and showing up. So there's lots to be said about each of them. Each of them can have their own book series, but I'll just talk about them briefly in the context of addressing unresolved trauma specifically. So phase one is waking up. And what does that mean in my view and my experience in context to healing unresolved trauma? It means waking up to the truth of who we are in context to trauma. And the truth is, trauma is essentially the embodied residue on the outside of the truth of who we are. So if you think about this analogy, like imagine a beautiful statue, the most beautiful statue you can think of. For some people, it might be Michelangelo's David, or another statue that's still standing in Italy from the Renaissance. And take your pick, just whatever statue, beautiful statue image comes to mind. Now imagine that you start covering that statue in mud, and you just keep covering it more and more and more and more, to the point where you can't see any of that beautiful statue. And then I ask the question, does that mean that it's not a beautiful statue anymore? The answer to that is no. That is that beautiful statue is the representation of the soul within each person. Soul, as an acronym, stands for source of unconditional love, which means we are all a unique and individual and individuated aspect of source, to quote Carl Jung and how he describes what a soul is. So what that means is we've never not been all the things that we would like to be. Because if we are all a unique aspect of source, we've never not been, it's not like we're not lovable. We've never not been love. How can love not be able to have love?
Yeah.
It is it. Just the ego, which again gets a bit of a bad rap these days, but ego as a word is Latin for I. Just like in the English language we have the pronoun I, ego is the Latin version of that. So all the ego is the aspect of our consciousness that allows us to separate our own sense of self from other people and the rest of the world, which doesn't mean we don't feel connected to them, but it just allows us to have our own unique experience. If I clicked my fingers and no one had any ego at all, no one would be here. There would be no separateness, which is getting more into the sort of mystical aspects of it and the more meditative side of it. But the reason why I'm talking about this is because constriction in the ego only happens when the ego defines itself by the residue on the outside of the truth of who it actually is. So instead of, yes, there's this residue because of what I went through and I need to address it, but the truth of me is I'm a unique soul here on earth, which is absolutely limitless, which means that there is no point where I can't feel how I want to feel. If the ego defines itself by the residue on the outside, that's when constriction happens. So instead of that, then it's I'm just this broken person. I'm unlovable. This happened. I'm just this wretched being that's been discarded and fractured, and again, to have lots of compassion. Sometimes a lot of the traumatic experiences happen way before an individual has even neurobiologically developed a prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that allows one to kind of regulate their emotions and ask the question, is that actually true or is that just bullshit? So, and a lot of this can happen when people are really, really young. So whether it's at school or at home, you're worthless, you're this, you're that, this happened, so that must mean that I am. A lot of this can happen so young that when that beautiful statue looks at itself in the mirror for the first time, they're completely covered. They don't actually see the beautiful statue beneath it because they've never not had the residue there. But when they wake up to the truth of who they are, their soul starts to come back online. And just like a dam that stopped a river opens up, they just start feeling that flow of love go again, like a river that's now in motion. There's no more stagnant water. It's clear and crystal and fresh. And they all of a sudden don't feel constricted. there's still the humanness of that. We still got to do some cleaning work, but they now, and this is not even just this is not an intellectual experience. There's a felt sense
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
that love is always here,
Yeah, no,
and it has
this is a
never not
deep
been here.
soul. This is a deep soul sense. I understand what you're
Yeah,
saying.
and it has never not been there.
What
And
I,
the
I'm sorry.
oh, go on in, go on, please.
What I personally had to do, one thing, there's a few things, but one of the things I personally had to do was realize that we can only be made by the creator and of the creator, and then or source. Um, and then I had to realize that Source doesn't look at me for all the things that I have done or all the things that I've been through, that I'm looked at as a love. And I had to start looking at myself how some people would consider like how God would look at them. I had to start
Mhm.
viewing myself. As a matter of fact, the reason why I have Charmaine up on here now is because I was realizing I was hating a part of me because I didn't like my middle name. And it was
Mhm.
it's that it has to do with those traumas. It has to do with
Mhm.
that muck. And I was identifying with all that muck. And here I am
Mhm.
now, like noticing, no, me not liking my name is me saying and rejecting a part of some part of me because I that is a part of me. But
Mhm.
that I was just kind of getting saying that. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And the and there's this simple yet utterly powerful process of getting someone to wake up is getting them to just start having a conversation with their soul.
Mm-hmm.
And you just start saying, soul, are you there? And then you feel and you take the position of soul and you speak back to yourself. And this can be written, look like a line of dialogue that you don't even need to say any words, you just feel the exchange of place. And those words from the soul, one way to distinguish is you'll usually feel them below your neck. You'll feel them rise up. They won't feel like they're in here. They'll be
Mm-hmm.
subtle. You'll feel like they rise up from below your neck, but you'll feel every single one of them. It'll feel like they're there as opposed to their thought. It's an experiential hearing
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just sort of like an intellectual. I'm sort of
Thought process.
seeing, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the feeling of those words will move you. Like, and again, like on my YouTube channel, for example, those recordings of the coaching sessions that I did back in 2024, people can watch those, and I take those two amazing women through that, and like you can see that exchange, and you can see them feel that. Like if that's the first time that they've connected to that aspect of themselves, and they ask the question like, soul, are you there? And then they feel those words rise up, something like, I've never not been here. And then the shudder that comes, which is which is just the release stemming from the relief, all of a sudden endless possibility starts to open. And the other thing in context with why this is so important is because love itself has no limit to how much it can expand. So when people truly wake up and connect with that aspect of themselves and the truth that they are love and infinitely connected via their soul to that endless, limitless river flow of love, they all of a sudden stop feeling afraid of how much they have to address still, because the fact that they are aware that there's trauma there that they need to address sort of by definition means that they're on guard to not add to that amount. So what that means is the amount of trauma that's there, because they're now on guard, kind of has a finite amount. They're constantly addressing it, so it's getting lower and lower, but it's not getting bigger. And because love has no limit to how much it can expand, that flow has no limit. So they now are not afraid of what they have to address, because their ego now knows via a felt sense that it is inevitable that the amount of love that will be in them will inevitably be infinitely greater than the amount of residue that they need to clean off. And so, as Paul Chek says, the solution to pollution is dilution. The love will just keep flowing to the point where all of that stuff is just completely diluted. Now, again, technical things to include in order to help that process, but that's the foundational principle. So that's the main part of the waking up phase, because that optimally calibrates the individual to know and not to know that they are not what happened to them. And that anchoring into love also gives them the foundation to hold them as they go back to unresolved memories and bring them back up enough to love them for as long as they need to in order to then let them go, because they need to be brought in to then be let go. They can't be bypassed. And trauma, as an acronym, stands for to reject an unpleasant memory assertively. So what it means, because as Dr. Keith Witt describes it, trauma is essentially a form of memory. Something happens that's painful, and the degree to which one cannot create a coherent narrative through it to the point where they can comprehend all the factors that contributed to how it could have happened without compromising healthy boundaries, and then understand what they've learned from it. The degree to which they can't do that is the degree to which the memory stays charged and still feels traumatizing. So, and a simple analogy for this is like, if a child burns their finger on a hot stove for the first time, the response that they have can be quite extreme because they've never done it before. They're crying, they're screaming, they think they might die, their finger's going to fall off and all the rest of it. And then an adult comes along and is like, oh, don't worry. Okay, what we need to do, first of all, I know it hurts, but we need to put it under some cold water and we'll put a bit of cream on it. And if you want, mummy can try and kiss it better for you too. And then I promise you're not going to die. You'll be okay. And you're like, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Because there's just such a level of understanding between the intensity of that event and an understanding of what could happen, if the adult burns their finger in the same way the child does, they're not going to get post-traumatic stress from it. And so what we see here is, and this is also goes back to the hierarchy of systems, with the psyche being right at the top, and the psyche's right at the top because it has the power to override all other systems. Like, someone can override all systems and sadly choose to depart Earth via their own hand.
Yes.
That is the power of the psyche. It is at the top of the hierarchy because it controls everything else. So the amount of comprehension that someone has, not to bypass the effects of abuse or something traumatic and horrible happening, but understanding the factors that contributed to it, and then also being able to comprehend their conscious choice into what they're going to turn it into. For example, the Japanese principle of kintsugi, which is the principle of putting shattered pottery back together with seams of gold.
Yeah.
And the belief being that the pot or jar or vase now has more beauty to it because of its unique shatter pattern, because there are no shatter patterns that are the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that also relates to another aspect of the first phase of the waking up, which is also getting really, really clear on what one's dream is. If success was guaranteed, what would I truly want for my life right now and going forward? And this is part of the check structure, which is you start with your one love. Why? Because it anchors one to something that's bigger and brighter beyond the pain of what they're going through. And it also gives someone a sense of proportion. They now can contextualize things. Someone who wants to be a painter and someone who wants to be an athlete both need movement. But if you don't know which one you want to be, you don't know how much movement to do.
Right.
And so if someone knows that they really want to heal this thing, but they're also sure that they don't want to be coaching people afterwards, but they would love to write beautiful poetry about it and share in that way. That contextualizes, because they'll go through that healing process, but then it's not dream affirmative to then be like reading the technical books that are all about coaching, but they can tailor the kind of stuff they're reading which is related to what they want to be doing afterwards as well. So I'm kind of oversimplifying, but that's also another aspect of it, which is of that first phase, which is really important. So in terms of those two kind of foundational techniques, the first one is connecting to that soul connection and really waking up to the truth of who we all are, and then really anchoring in what is my dream. And the other aspect that's so important about just really connecting to the truth of who we are is that's all especially if people are struggling with addiction, that's also the foundation of that healing process. Because I know this because I grew up with an alcoholic father who's now gone through that whole process, and he's been sober for like 7 years now.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah, but that's also like what I grew up with. It was really, really challenging. And my mum,
Giselle understands. And I understand. I grew up with an alcoholic father. She grew up with an alcoholic stepfather.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
we understand the
mhm.
volatile and the all the things that go along with it.
Yeah, but addiction, to my current understanding anyway, what I observed and have lived through, etc., is it's simply the psyche trying to use an external modality to satiate an internal issue.
Hmm.
What
Yeah,
trying to
absolutely.
what it is, and there's usually a charged traumatic memory, trauma to reject an unpleasant memory assertively. There's a charge in a memory of something that happened that the psyche doesn't want to go touch intangibly, but because it's an intangible wound, it needs an intangible tool. So trying to use something external to satiate that is like using a hammer with a screw. And the reason why I use that analogy is because a hammer and a screw will kind of work, but it just won't work completely. And that's the other challenging thing about addictions, as Dr. Keith Witt talked about. It's hard to get enough of something that almost works.
Right.
Because
As a recovering addict, I understand on that one big time.
and then you get the neurochemical dopamine influence too. Like there's a bit, okay, I feel better, but then the body gets used to it, and it's like, okay, I need a bit more now, and then that's the physiological hamster wheel. So, but
Hmm.
not to go off on too many tangents, but that's kind of like the overview of that first phase. That's the simple part, because that can happen. That all of the things that I just talked about can happen relatively quickly. Phase 2 is where the rubber meets the road, which is growing up and cleaning up. So growing up relates to elevating one stage of consciousness. So you can think about a stage of consciousness as like a vantage point. You can see more and understand more because you can just see further. You can take in just more information, and you can't heal trauma from the same stage of consciousness you were at when it happened to you. You need a higher vantage point. So you need to, because if you're looking at it through the same from the same stage of consciousness, it's like you're looking at it from the same level. So you're still seeing it in the same way.
Hmm.
So a stage of consciousness is essentially the lens through which we see the world and can comprehend and understand how it all fits together. So that needs to be addressed. And then cleaning up is all about cleaning out the sludge and embodying new habits. So an analogy or a metaphor I really like to use for that is the one of cleaning a house. And it's also a pretty good one because one, it's quite simple, but two, it actually kind of the principle just really works. If a house is in a state of chaos and really, really filthy, to the point where it's just like, oh my God, how are we gonna do this? It's like, all right, well, we gotta start. There's gonna be an initial period where it's just not going to be pleasant.
No.
Like, but if we're learning the lessons, we only got to do it once. And there's a big difference between cleaning and then maintaining a clean home once we've learned the tools and realize, okay, that wipe is for that, that brush is for that. Okay, I can't use a vacuum cleaner to clean a tap. Okay, I've
The
understood the
vacuum
difference.
cleaner to clean the tap. Sorry.
Yeah, like the right, yeah, like the, like I don't know what a vacuum cleaner is. Okay, I can't use it for that. All right, it's for the floor. You got to use a brush for that, and it's the same thing with all of these holistic tools. And that also relates to another fundamental principle of the healing process itself, which is healing is not the point. The healing process is the passageway to the point, which is simply to be able to dance with life in joy regardless of what's happening, because we've got the tools to be able to maintain ourselves. If someone knows how to keep a house clean, let's say there's a mother who's just knows all of that, goes out for a day, and their teenagers have had friends over and they've hurricaned the whole place. It's not going to be pleasant. Like, life just came along, was just like, here you go, and you're just like, fuck. It's like, I really didn't need this today, but I'm not tripping out because I know how to clean that up. That's the same thing. Like, okay, this happened. This emotion is present. Okay, I understand what that is. I know that needs that tool. Okay.
So
So
what
it's that
I'm
being
hearing
me.
is basically it helps you keep from getting overwhelmed. That
Well,
getting that
that's an
overwhelmed
aspect.
sensation.
Well, that's an aspect of it. The
Okay.
overwhelm essentially is just I can't handle what's going on, and every human being will have their point where if it hits that, I can't handle what's going on, but we can't predict what life will dish out at us. So it's very possible that we hit that and get that, and we all will consistently. But when we're sort of when we've wired in these new habits and are familiar with these holistic tools, we understand what it feels like to be in that place. So even if we do get in that I'm overwhelmed, well, I know what to do when I'm overwhelmed. I know who to ask for help. I know to not panic. I know that if I'm overwhelmed, it's simply because I just don't fully understand how to address this. So I know how to respond. Like like the house got hurricaned, and it's like, okay, I know how to clean a house, but I've never seen that much tomato sauce on the wall before. But at the same, so I'm overwhelmed, or that's all over the carpet, and I've never tried to get it out before. But so yeah, I'm overwhelmed, but I'll see if I can clean it. But if needs be, I know that the other option is to actually just replace the carpet and then sentence the perpetrator to a few months of sort of cleaning jail, just so that I don't have to do it all myself. But that's the point. So you're not afraid of when life deals its stuff, and it always will, because an aspect of this third dimension on Earth is that the potential and presence for these will always be there, because it has to. Without it, we can't be conscious. as Edward Edinger said, who's a Jungian analyst, consciousness is a psychic substance produced by the experience of opposites, endured not blindly, but in living awareness. So what that means is there's certain, like, we're not wishing for these suboptimal things to happen, but if they come up, we are more conscious if we endure what happened by understanding the opposites consciously, as opposed to just not looking for the lesson. And which again does not mean that we compromise healthy boundaries and move away from abusive people or situations or things like that. But there's a consciousness that will come in when we're asking, okay, what did I learn here? Oh, I didn't know what narcissism was before. Oh, I didn't know what gaslighting was before. Hang on. They were the narcissist and telling me that I was the one gaslighting them. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. And then awareness expands and we're now more conscious. And that understanding, which is also a holistic tool to be able to reflect on situations like that, also is part of the healing process, because it allows us to not feel bitter and cling to things. Like, we can let things go once we learn the lessons, but with clear, healthy boundaries. So we're not compromising those either. But that this phase 2 is not only going in and using these tools to go into every single memory that's still unresolved, and we clear that shit out. And there's a lot of spiritual bravery that needs to come in oftentimes. And
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
there can be moments where it's just bliss, but sometimes there are moments where it's very important, it's very necessary, you know you need to do it, but there's just nothing fun about it. Like cleaning the house, there's nothing fun about cleaning the mold, but you can enjoy the clean wall afterwards. But
Hmm.
it's just, I am not enjoying this at all, but I know that I need to do it. Or that just cleaning the stinky thing that's been festering there for however long. But if you don't add back to it, you only do it once, and then it's gone and dealt with. And then the other part of that, because the approach is holistic with the training that I have, all of that mental emotional breakthrough that happens then also needs to be tangibly embodied in the nervous system and on a cellular level, so physiologically someone's not physiologically still living in the past. The mind can change and thought can change so much faster than the nervous system. So there's going to be kind of like a time lag. So for the nervous system and the cellular structure and the general day-to-day habits of thought, word, and deed to catch up to where someone's mind is now at. So someone can do all of this work, and they're like, consciously they are now way ahead of where their nervous system still is. But that's just the reality of the density of matter and form.
Hmm.
And so that's when the tangible repetitions need to come back in. Like, okay, if I am now this soul. Okay, how would a soul like that think about itself? How would I talk to myself? What would I do? Would I still do that? Would I still eat that kind of food? I feel better doing this. Would I still do that? Actually, that doesn't feel good. Maybe I should change that. And sometimes the whole routine of someone's life needs to now be optimized. And so, because in this second phase, what we need to do is get self-perception, self-articulation, which is how someone talks about themselves, and their daily actions in alignment, in congruence with their new stage of consciousness and awareness as well. But you can have that alignment at any stage of consciousness, which is also why you can have really unhealthy pieces of shit people seem like they're flowing through life fine. Because how they think about themselves, how they talk about themselves, and what they do is all in alignment. It's just really, really low, and they are a thunderous piece of shit. So, but at the same
Sorry.
time, they are
The way you put
they
that
don't,
was amazing.
but they just don't have that incongruence. So energy is flowing through them without obstruction. Just it's at a very low level of consciousness. So what that energy flow is manifesting is destructive to other people
Yeah.
because their stage of consciousness is still very low. But everyone needs that. So maybe their self-perception after phase one has really evolved and developed, but now their self-articulation and how their self-talk is still habitually a bit negative, because the law of facilitation, any impulse that traverses a set of neurons to the exclusion of others will do so far easier on every time. I messed up the second part of that quote because I can't remember it, but you get the idea. That needs to be reversed. Just how like it using a knife and fork in a certain way, like fork in left hand, knife in the right hand, or vice versa, and someone's like, switch it. It's a bit clunky at first. It's going to take some repetitions to make for that to feel normal. It's the same thing here. Like, just, and the awareness to catch things, like something happens and, oh, I'm so stupid. It's like, hang on.
Yeah.
Would a soul call themselves stupid? Actually, what should I say instead? And then there's that process and it's clunky, but then afterwards you automate the, oh, okay, maybe I can remember a bit better next time, but that's all right. Good job for doing your best, but let's see if we can improve it for next time. And then
Guilty of that.
and but the thing is, like, again, it's not a guilt thing. It's just awareness. I'm more aware now. Okay, thank you for the understanding. I've had the experience of the opposite. I'm aware of the new. I'm now more conscious because I've consciously experienced the opposites. So now I can catch it. Without the experience of the opposites, we can't notice when we're flipping around. And so, but then this is the second phase, and this is as I said, this is where the phase where the rubber meets the road, because embodying those new habits is where we embody what we have processed mentally and emotionally. And this is one of the issues when a healing process is not holistic, because if it's just therapeutic and only stays in the mind, but it hasn't been anchored into the nervous system and on a cellular level, where that belief and understanding of what I have worked through, I am just vibrating. So there's no part of my being that doesn't, it's not even belief. It's like, I know this is who I am. I know the truth of me that I woke up to. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And there's the repetition of it, like, and the physiological aspect of just allowing utilizing the tools of nutrition and breath work and sauna and fascial release and all the rest of it to help the emotions that have been cleared through already to physiologically be shaken and released out, and also detoxified, because emotions get stored in organ systems as well. So that as the organs themselves are given what they need to physiologically detox, what has been moved through can now fully be flushed out. But can you see how, like, we need both? We can't have one or the other. If we just go to the physiology, we'll feel better for a bit, but it keeps going back. If we just do the mind and the emotions, we don't clear the physiology, but then we don't have self-articulation and daily actions in alignment, and we're just not going to feel like we're flowing with life. We know, but we just don't feel it. And so we need both. This is why a holistic structure is so important, which is not to deny the benefits of therapy or breath work or anything together. We need all of those modalities holding loving hands together, and the right one at the right time. And then, so that can take a long time for depending on the person, and it's not to judge it, but it's to do it progressively and just allow the physiology to fully clear out. And when we really get to a certain base level, that's when we feel like, all right, I've fully turned the corner now. There's still stuff I'm clearing out, but I've fully turned the corner. And it doesn't mean all the way. It just means kind of like a base level of fluency in this energetic language of health. Just how, like, anybody learning a second language, like and I like this analogy because I've been learning French for almost 2 years now. There's always going to be levels to a language. There's always certain levels of mastery that that someone could reach regardless of their level of fluency. But there's kind of like a moment where within a language, when we have a base level of fluency, it's almost like the pressure's off because we're sort of day to day fluent, and then we're generally fine, and now we can just keep refining it. It's the same with like this energetic language of health and healing. You can hit that base level of sort of fluency where mentally and emotionally you got a hold on things and you move through stuff, but you've also embodied it physiologically to a point where there's still stuff that you catch yourself, but you've got a base level of optimization in new habits where it's like, all right, I this feels so good. I'm always going to be refining it and doing it, but I've hit that base level where it's like I'm fully out of it now. So it's almost like pressure's off because because it's like you're in the country and you don't speak the language and it's really uncomfortable in the beginning, but then you hit the base level of fluency. You still make grammatical mistakes here and there and stuff,
Right.
but you've got the day-to-day fluency that it's like, oh, okay.
You at least
Right.
understand good morning, good night, and hello.
Yeah, just getting about, and you can just getting about day to day with stuff and having a chit chat and expressing yourself and asking for things. Like it's all, you've got that covered. So just interacting with people generally is not really like there's no, you don't feel that, oh no, maybe I don't know the answer for this, or I don't know how to say that. Like in the health context and healing trauma, it's like I've cleared enough of this out where it's just like, yeah, all right, I've got this base level. I really, really feel good. But now I'm just going to continue refining this and stuff like that. But, oh, wow, yeah, I've really hit this base level and this feels amazing. And that's the corner turning point, which happens about, I would say, 75% of the way into phase 2, because those new habits are properly anchored in. So it's kind of like phase 1, if you're standing up straight, phase 1 will make your head kind of go off center, but your feet and hips will stay where they are. And then it's like, try and walk forward. It's like, all right, this feels really weird. Like my head's off here. This is really uncomfortable. And then after a while, your hips and your shoulders and all the rest of it slowly start to come under. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I'm just sort of going along. That's kind of what it's like. Your mind and emotions will move so much faster and just become aware and more healed so much quicker, because thought doesn't move as slow as the density of matter. And so once the nervous system and our cellular structure and the just cleanliness and detoxification of our organ systems has caught up to where our mind and emotions now are, that's when we hit that kind of base level. And then we feel like we've got a real launch pad to just take us into phase 3. And phase 3 is opening up and showing up. So now that we're generally we've cleaned the house, it's now clean. It's like the question now is, what do we want this house to be now? And so the opening up and showing up is all about bringing our new healed self to our new life, which is related to what our dream is. So opening up is opening up to our multiple intelligences. Everybody has their own innate genius within them. And as Einstein said, everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its entire life thinking it's stupid. Mm-hmm. So basically, that everyone has like real genius, unique things within them that they're here to share with the world. And just this phase 3 means that it will be informed by the healing process that they went through. So for some people, that, like me, what that was coaching professionally. That was how I wanted to manifest it. And that felt very, very congruent and right for me. For someone else, maybe they want to write a book. For another person, maybe they want to start their own company of baby clothes, but the mission statement is using all organic fibers and don't have babies with people that abuse you or whatever. Just whatever it is for the individual. I mean,
I have
That's,
a very dark humor, and I just we do have very dark humor.
well, I'm British, so like
You
You
let
guys
off
I
are
grew up
the
built
dark
on
grew up
dark
humor.
on a
humor.
I grew up on a steady diet of sarcasm, self-depreciating humor, and seeing just how clever and into the shadows my jokes can go. So yes, I'm right there with you. Um, the but that's essentially what it is. And for maybe someone goes through this process and they're in their 70s, and for them they've done all their work, they've retired, and their version of bringing this into their new life is just walking down the street, just beaming a giant smile at the world, because that's all they want to do now. They just want to enjoy this feeling, and that's enough. It's for each person to define for themselves, and that is what's really important. And then so that's what opening up is. And within that, it's like, oh, I feel like I've got a talent for music, and I've got a talent for linguistics, and I'm good with people, or actually I'm not good with people at all, or blah, 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 but I'm actually really good at art, and I like to create things with my hands. And people have their own sort of unique mix, and
Yeah.
they come up with their own sort of holistic picture of what it looks like. And that's opening up, and then showing up is bringing it into the world. So that's where, based on what they want to do, then it's like, what structure do I need to actually be able to share that with the world? So if someone wants to create a certain company, for example, depending on what it is, like, is it a digital product, is it a physical product, is it coaching, is it baby clothes, is it whatever it is, there will be a certain business structure that's more optimal to bring that into the world. That's where my work stops. That's when they go get a business coach or someone else. Um, but it's awareness of the principles of how it relate, of how they can now interface and anchor into the world again fully as their new self, because they're experiencing the world as a new version of
Or a new
themselves for the
being.
first time. And so that completes the cycle, like using the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell's work.
Oh my gosh, I love that poem. I love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, so the hero's journey,
Hmm.
the phase three, like the three phases I just talked about, can be the phases of the hero's journey. So the waking up part and getting help and all of that, that's the call to adventure. And well,
Yeah.
it's like, I need to heal, that's the call to adventure. And you getting support, you meet the mentor, you cross the threshold of tapping into your soul. And then phase two, that's the whole road of trials. That's where we really get into the sludge and clean all of that stuff. And then when you hit that base level, you've you've uh, you you've seized the sword, like the Arthurian myth, like getting the sword from the stone. Like, I've
Yeah.
done it now. I've done it. I've gone into the cave and I've got the gold. And then phase three is all about that return home. Like, what did you learn? You've now alchemized that into deep wisdom that the world now needs, because no one has had the same experience as you. And so that completes it energetically. And then bringing it into the new life, in whatever that means for the individual. That cycle now becomes clear that cycle is not a circle, it's an upward spiral. So you've now got the start of a new hero's journey of bringing your knowledge into the world through your new life. It's just going to feel a lot more pleasurable because the abuse is done.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the over sort of bird's eye view of the healing process that I have found to be what allows someone to really go through it in a lasting way. And again, like, there's lots of specific technical tools for each stage, but I didn't want to get into too many of them because it would just be a bit too heady. And
If you
obviously
want to know
probably a
that
bit too
part, that's
long.
when they call you.
But the thing is, like, I thought it'd be, to start off with, getting a
Mhm.
whole overview, I thought would be more helpful, and
Oh
sharing the
yeah.
principles of each stage, because then at least like now we have a map. So if I do talk about technical things, it's contextual because people know where to. If I say like this is related to phase 2, someone can now contextually understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about some technical jargon.
Yeah, right. So you said
So did
there's
that all make sense?
a hierarchy, and I've been wondering. You said it starts with the brain, and my question is what is that list? Can you tell me what that list is, where the hierarchy of the body?
Well, okay, so well, that's Paul Chek's totem system, so totem pole
Okay.
system. So the top is not the brain; the top is the psyche. The brain is the brain is the tangibly measurable aspect of our head. The psyche is intangible; it's the relation to the unconscious,
Hmm.
and so psyche in Greek means soul as well. So it's the intangible, mystical, psychological aspect of our being, and psychology also essentially means study of the soul. So that's at the top, and the mind as well. But the mind itself, to use the definition by Dr. Dan Siegel, is mind is an embodied and relational process that regulates the flow of energy and information. So, the keyword the keyword there is embodied. So so the mental emotional developments that we have are an embodied process. So, just to answer your question, like top there's the psyche, and then you have breathing, and then you have so then it's more into like the sort of bodily systems.
Hmm.
So I don't need to detail all of them, but then you've got like jaw and eyes and ears and the upper cervical spine and the atlas bone, and then you're getting into the viscera and the organs, which is a floating symbol, so it can move up and down the totem pole, and then you get into the slave joints, and it's also understanding like how
There's a
certain
lot
things.
to it, in other words.
Yeah, because like for example, if someone's like the eyes as well, like if someone's got an eye that's slightly wonky, the or the jaw doesn't fit together optimally, like someone's got a cross bite, the system will warp their posture to make sure the jaw fits together. So there's only one click, because that means that if they can't fit their jaw together, then the system's like, well, then we might die because we can't eat. But
Hmm.
then that can cause a warp in the spine and posture, and that can overstress joints, and people can have pain in certain systems. And but then also then you've got to look higher and check whether there's a psychological driver of that, it or whether the root of that distortion is below the psyche. And so it's very intricate when you're getting into the weeds of it and
Yeah.
really trying to find the root. But at the same time, from the coaching side of it, it's very, very necessary to understand the interrelationship of systems and the hierarchy of things. And with regards to unresolved trauma, it's more common than not that the root of what they're dealing with will be in the psyche first. It can go the other way, but it's slightly less common. I'll give you an example. Like, let's say you had someone who had a wonderful childhood, no abuse, all the rest of it, training to be an Olympic athlete, and they've got Olympic trials in 3 months, and they slip walking down the road when it's wet, and all of a sudden they snap their ACL. And now all of a sudden they have anxiety like they have never experienced in their entire life. Anxiety being the symptom of a fear that something is coming that you can't avoid, and when it arrives you can't handle it. Olympic trials are not going to change their schedule for me. It's
Right.
been my dream to win a gold medal at the Olympics since I was 3. So, and I'm now in my 20s, and it's coming. This is my dream. my knee's busted and I think I'm screwed. And I don't know if this can heal up in 3 months or whatever. And it's coming, and now I can't breathe most of the time because when that comes, I don't think I can actually run that fast because my knee is busted, and then my dreams are just going to go poof. And then
But
it's
my
another 4 years.
dreams,
And then it's another 4 years if I miss this Olympics, and I can't deal with that. So now I'm all over the place, and I don't know how to heal with that. And now I find that I'm drinking and reaching for pills and stuff like that. In that scenario, what we see is there's the mind and the emotions, and we now have the physiology. But in that scenario, you don't start with the mind and the emotions, you start addressing the knee. So understanding where the root is gives you the idea, because you want to find what's rooted to what. Whereas on the flip side, the more common situation in sort of trauma stories is I was young and I got horribly abused. That's the other way. You want to start with the waking up and the mind and the emotions side of things. And their physiology is usually, it's not usually like a big injury like that. It's more like just the result of just being like just chronic fatigue and being just so exhausted from their nervous system never ever being able to rest because they just lived in terror the whole time. So, but understanding that kind of holistic domino line from the practitioner side gives you the insight as to what you ideally need to start with. So that athlete example, you'd give them some techniques to help them understand what they're experiencing and why, and then help them reframe their perception. But you'd start with getting a clear understanding of what the situation is with their knee and what can be done and the timelines and things like that, so that whatever that is, you know it objectively. So even if it looks like they might be missing the Olympics or the Olympic trials or something like that, if you know that concretely, then you can start on something concrete, and then they can start accepting something. But or if it's like it might be tight, but it is an ACL tear, but the tear's not huge, and you're young and you'll heal really quickly. So if we're really good about pumping you full of collagen and getting you running again, but you're in a pool, so the weight's taken off you and all the rest of it, then all of a sudden they're like, oh, there is hope. Okay, all right, I got a hold on this, and then you can actually start talking to them about, all right, let's talk about anxiety. Do you know what it is? Do you know why you're feeling that way? And then you can go in, and then it's like, then you can go into the definition. It's like, why did you feel like that? And have you put your whole sense of worth on being able to achieve this thing? Do you define yourself as this?
most of the time they do.
Yeah, but this is my point. But in that circumstance, that needs to come second. So
yeah, it's a very different
that's why,
approach
like,
for
understanding what's root driver and
individuals.
what's exacerbator is really, really important. And that also relates to understanding a model that Ken Wilber created called the 4 quadrants, which is just understanding like what's an intangible interior quadrant and what's an exterior quadrant, of which there's 4. But that's getting really technical. But when you can understand that, you can kind of see the map of like, oh, they're dealing with that, and that's in that quadrant. Those 2 are in that one, and that one's there, and that one's there, and then the root's here, and okay, here's the map, and that led to that, and that, and so you kind of know. And based on all of that, that one needs that kind of tool, that one needs this kind of tool. Okay, we're going to start with that. We'll do this, and then and you can. So, kind of the way that an electrician knows, like, all right, I'm looking at this mess of wires, but I know exactly which ones are supposed to be where, and okay, that one's there, that's out of whack, this one here, okay, we'll start with that and do this tool for that one, and okay. It's kind of a similar principle.
It's pretty amazing.
It's phenomenal in all honesty, but I can definitely see how it all ties together, how you start in one area and you can start focusing in other areas once that area is done. And
Yeah.
it definitely, I really like how you explain it, how you break it down and bring in these scenarios to help people understand it a little bit better. Because,
I'm glad it made sense.
No, it did. No, it did. It made great sense. It really made a lot of sense.
Okay, good.
Yes, it made
Yeah.
a lot of sense. No, you did
At least
great.
to
And
us, it did.
yeah, we
Yeah,
totally
well, that's
understood
also
it.
that's also the and something I consciously try and do as well, because like these things can get super technical,
Oh, yeah.
but um, that you only need to explain it like that if you're talking to people that also want to teach it. But generally speaking, like you need to make it as simple as possible without losing any of the density of the information. So that's what I do my best to be able to do. So I'm glad I've managed to do that to a point where you can genuinely understand it.
Oh,
Absolutely.
you did. And the one thing I want to, you do the coaching, and I wanted to just get your information out there for those who maybe want to come to you for that coaching for trauma.
Okay, well, so there are so all the information is on my website, jacobmodak.com, but just a little brief overview of the different things that I have. So I've got 3 ways that I work with people. I have a entry level accessible self-study program, which is the core foundational curriculum that every program I have follows. It's the curriculum and course of what I just talked about: phase 1 to phase 2, phase 3,
Mhm.
broken down into 7 modules. Regardless of whether someone's doing in-depth coaching with me or the self-study stuff, all of it is centered around that core curriculum. The only thing about that self-study program, which I just launched, is that there's just no live coaching with me. So financially, it's just very accessible. It's just a monthly subscription, cancel any time. It's £59.99, and there's no contract. If someone just wants to do 1 month, they can do that. They can do as many months as they would like. It's just cancel any time. Because of the nature of the work, I would always recommend at least 6 months. But I wanted to put that there so that if they the genuine willingness to want to start addressing this is there, that there isn't that financial barrier there.
Which a
And also I've
lot
got
of people run into.
I've got my YouTube channel with which has a lot of videos on it, and I'm going to be really adding to that more. So that's the free stuff as well. So there's free stuff, the self-study program, and then the in-depth coaching is in 2 forms. So this is where it's that core foundational program, but plus live coaching. So I have the group, which is it's that core program, but then there's a weekly group call that I do, and then there's the private one-to-one mentorship that I offer as well. And that one specifically is for people that want to make that deeper financial investment. The group as well, but the mentorship is also for people that they clearly have an intention that they want to go through this process and be a change maker and healing force in the world afterwards. Not to say being a coach, but it means that whether it's a business, whether it's writing a book, whatever their dream involves genuinely bringing the lessons that they learned into the world and really causing some waves, positive waves, but they just don't know the steps. But they are so clear that they want to do this work and they want to really accelerate change as a result in the world as a result of what they share. That's what the mentorship's for, and that's by application. So on my website, in that section, there's just a form where there's a bunch of questions and they can fill it out, and I'll get that email and then I can contact them. But because of the sort of depth that they want to go to, the process itself will just be going a lot deeper, and it'll just be a lot more intense, just because they want to be that. So that's what the mentorship's for. And again, everyone has their own unique journey. So regardless of what sort of entry point they feel is right, that's all good. But I just have those three so that kind of regardless of what stage someone is in and at, I've got a way to support them. Which even if just the YouTube videos is what they can handle right now, then that's perfect as well. Or listening to something like this, like a podcast, and going from there. But those are the three ways that I support people. So I have the self-study program, the group program, and then the private mentorship. And all of that is on my website, jacobmodak.com. And then my Instagram is at Jacob Modak, and my YouTube is at Jacob Modak Coaching. And the links to my website is on social media as well. So that's basically me in a nutshell on how to get a hold of me.
Well,
Basically.
I can put that all in the show notes for those who are like driving, because we want to make sure that they can access that later on.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Honestly, thank you for coming on here and having a breakdown. I really truly feel that we could probably have a whole other conversation about all this again.
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to. And just to say, like I am very very grateful for both of you inviting me on. This is just the third podcast I've ever done. Just the third, and also Jeselle was telling me a little bit about the background of what you both kind of went through together growing up, and also what you, Sela, have worked through the last couple of years as well. And
Well,
like with myself, with my family, like starting with it being just in chaos, but then coming to the point now, skipping a lot of details just for the sake of time, to where my dad's been sober for like almost 7 years now. My mum and my dad have been doing coaching for quite a few years with one of my teachers at the Holistic Institute, along with therapy, and we've gone through the process of all three of us like talking about the past, letting it go, crying together, saying sorry. Like I've gone through that whole process of being at the beginning where I was just utterly confused to the point of being distraught and feeling like I was cursed, and just losing count of how many times I just had to sit in my room and hug my knees with the lights off and just cry and just say, why me? And then make sense of it all. And then my parents realizing that they came from that as well with their parents, and my dad realizing he treated me the way his dad treated him, and him saying
yeah.
sorry, and my mum realizing that, oh, there was just that abandonment pattern. My mum got dropped off at a Catholic orphanage when she was 3 by her dad, and she never got over that, so she didn't actually share any motherly feeling towards me. And then this was it. So like going through that, I just want to say that I deeply appreciate and can recognize like what both of you have worked through as well. It's not small, it's not trivial, and it's something that you both should be intensely proud about. And being able to share that with other people is very, very special. And so it's not just a case of me knowing, like just understanding it in an intellectual way. Like I've lived that too.
Mhm.
And yeah, and just to say, like, if any of you ever need any support for anything, like, just please feel free to connect with me at any time, and I'm always here. And thank you very much again for the opportunity to share on here with both of you and with your listeners. So yeah, thank you very
Absolutely.
much again.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you for that. Thank you for that, because that, no matter how many times we hear it, you can't hear it too many times. There's no such thing as hearing it too many times of you guys have done the hard work. You guys are great. We have. There is a lot of abuse that I personally have put onto Giselle when she was younger, and it takes a lot of willingness to just say, okay, I'm going to look at the bad parts of me and recognize that I wasn't there for my child as a mother like I should have been.
Hmm.
And,
And Giselle, like, I just want to say as well, like, I recognize the And I just want to recognize how special it is for you to be able to get to a place where like you can forgive Sela for that. Like that's part of like one of the things with me, like that was one of the hardest things that I had to do. I'm not saying it was for you, just for me with my dad. It was just speaking personally. Um like that was very, very challenging, but I know that when I was able to consciously tell him, I know that that's not the truth of who you are. It's not what you meant to do, and I don't hold it against you. I know that that allows him as the parent to take a breath and be like, and just get on with his own healing journey, because it's like, oh, thank God my kid doesn't hate me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yes, yes, that's exactly how it is. And I'm so thankful every day that she has the capacity and all my children have had the capacity. I'm very blessed. Very, very
Yeah.
blessed in that area that all my children have had the capacity to forgive me.
And to get a little bit just slightly more on the mystical side, a lot of the times it's very like oftentimes it's very mature souls that come into really challenging containers because they are able to hold that. And a lot of the times when we come through the healing journey and really connect to the depth of ourselves, we often find that those are there. We can see that we went through that period where it was like I was blind but now I see.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realized that we had the capacity to hold that and come through it with that kind of alchemical gold. And we were the ones that were able and chose to be able to endure that, so we can bring a lot of that healing into the world. And like one of the things that's very clear with you, Jeselle, and we didn't even talk about the ancestral healing part of it in terms of breaking generational patterns. One of the things with me, and I talked about this with my parents too, we don't know how far back those screwed up patterns go in our lineage. They could have gone literally, no shit, they could have gone back thousands of years. One of the truths is, with me and my sister, they've completely stopped. So no generation coming after, like my sister has 2 children. I don't, but my sister has 2 kids. But one of the truths is, it ain't carrying on. That is amazing. And it's very, very clear that it's not carrying on with you. So
Well, it's not.
having the capacity to step into that and change a generational pattern, which you've both have done, is a miracle. And I've lived that too. So I know it when I see it. And it's incredible. And as the mystics say, like when you heal 7 generations after you and 7 generations before you.
Wow.
And the ancestral component is also a part of the phase 2 of the program, which is also because if someone's doing all the personal work and things still aren't shifting, there might be an ancestral component to it. And there was a specific process that I did, which was a bit more mystical, which I didn't have the time to explain.
Well, then we need to have you come back
That's
on.
why we come back on. Yeah.
I'd be happy to. I'd be very happy to like come on and we can focus more on that aspect of things if you want, because that's a big part of it too.
We would love to dive deeper into that at some point in time.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll be in touch and we'll get something scheduled, and I'll send over the journal entry that I was taking in 2023 during that period as well, so you guys can read that. And
Yeah.
when you reading that before and then talking about it that'd be pretty interesting, because you'll probably spark some questions, because just based on what it was like. But yeah, thank you again. I really, really enjoyed it, and yeah, I'm totally up for round 2.
Yeah, all the way.
Absolutely. And for all of our listeners, we'll have all the stuff in the show notes. Our link tree and everything for our socials and our website and all of that. We appreciate everybody who listens to us. And if you or somebody who wants to share a story, No story should go unheard. He doesn't need a name, so he can stay anonymous. And you can email us at 12looking through thru34theglass@gmail.com, or you can reach us out on our socials as well. We will respond, and we appreciate everybody who comes on and listens.
And yeah, I'll see if I can get a coupon code sorted out for your listeners for
That'd be
the self-study program as well.
awesome.
Absolutely.
So